There was a time when he believed life was only about surviving, waking up early, doing what was expected, carrying responsibilities that never seemed to end. Dreams felt distant, almost irresponsible, like something meant for people with easier lives. He wasn't lazy and he wasn't weak. He was simply disconnected from himself. For years, he copied what worked for others. He followed advice that sounded logical. He chased outcomes without understanding direction. Every time he reached something he thought he wanted, the excitement disappeared faster than it came. Deep inside, a quiet voice kept repeating the same sentence. This is not all you were made for. One evening, completely drained, he sat alone and realized something uncomfortable. Life was not reacting to how hard he worked. It was responding to why he was working. His actions were loud, but his intention was unclear. And clarity, once lost, distorts everything. That night, he stopped asking what he could get from life and started asking what life was asking from him. It was a simple shift, but it changed the weight of every decision. He understood that intention always comes before outcome, even before thought. The energy behind an action decides where it lands. He noticed how people could do the same thing and receive completely different results. One would give to be seen, another would give quietly. One would speak to impress, another would speak to serve. The universe responded accordingly, not emotionally, but accurately. From that moment on, he made a rule for himself. He would no longer invest his time in spaces that drained his spirit, even if they promised recognition. He would no longer chase attention disguised as opportunity. Every choice would pass through one filter. Does this align with who I am becoming? Living this way wasn't easy. It required letting go of familiarity. It required disappointing people who benefited from the old version of him. It required walking away from paths that looked safe but felt wrong. But something unexpected happened. The more honest he became with himself, the lighter life felt. He realized that the dream he was chasing wasn't something he needed to invent. It already existed, long before fear shaped his thinking, long before doubt learned how to speak. There was a design behind his existence, and his job was not to control it, but to align with it. Instead of asking what he wanted to be, he asked what he was created to express. That question silenced comparison. It ended the need to compete. He understood that no one else could live his role, just like he could never live someone else's. There was a period when everything he knew ended. Not because he failed, but because the chapter was complete. Walking away felt like stepping into emptiness. Progress slowed. Mistakes became visible. People watched quietly, unsure if he had lost direction. But inside, something remained steady. He trusted the intention, even when doubt showed up daily, but it no longer controlled him. He understood that doubt appears when growth demands expansion. Silence replaced applause, yet roots were forming beneath the surface. What looked like nothing was actually preparation. He stopped resisting uncertainty and allowed it to teach him. He released the need to prove and focused on becoming. Slowly, opportunities appeared that he couldn't have planned. Support came from places he never expected. Not because he chased it, but because he was ready for it. The dream never left him. It waited patiently until he stopped forcing life and started listening to it. And when alignment finally replaced resistance, everything began to move in the right direction. He realized that every action, every word, every thought carries energy. Not all energy is equal. Some builds, some breaks, some simply drifts and disappears. The secret was not in doing more, but in doing with purpose, doing with intention. He understood that two people can stand in the same place, face the same challenge, and walk away with completely different lives. One responds to fear, the other to calling. The universe reflects that back. From that day, he started measuring everything by one question. Why am I doing this? Not how much it will benefit me, not who will notice, but why. If the answer aligned with growth, service, and truth, he proceeded. If not, he let it go. It was not always easy. Temptation whispered that small shortcuts would speed success. Recognition tempted him to compromise. Familiarity demanded he stay small. But he learned that comfort is often the disguise of stagnation. He stopped trying to live inside someone else's story. Comparison became irrelevant. Power came from mastering his own territory. his choices, his integrity, his attention, and his energy. The more he managed this, the more doors opened naturally, without force. Support appeared from unexpected directions. People who saw clarity joined him. People who could not shifted away, and that was fine. He embraced the unknown, understanding that growth is rarely linear. Every failure became feedback. Every delay became preparation. Every quiet moment underground was building strength. Patience became his ally, and trust became his compass. He learned that the dream waiting for him was not a coincidence. It had been waiting all along, perfectly timed, perfectly shaped. He only needed to step forward and align with it. The more he surrendered control over the outcome and focused on intention, the lighter life felt. Fear no longer dictated his choices. Doubt became a guide rather than an enemy. The path was not easy, but it was honest. Every step forward carried him closer to the purpose that had always existed. He realized finally that alignment, not force, creates unstoppable momentum. And in that space, he discovered the secret of living fully. The dream never left. The universe always responds. And when intention is clear, life begins to rearrange itself to match it. Results were delayed. He learned that clarity doesn't come before movement. It comes from movement. You don't need the full map. You only need the next honest step. He realized that life was not about proving himself to others. It was about honoring the person he was becoming. Every choice mattered. Not because it was noticed, but because it reflected the alignment within him. He began to see clearly that trying to control everything outside was wasted energy. The only territory he could truly master was his own, his thoughts, his actions, his intention, his integrity. Once he accepted that, everything shifted. Opportunities that once seemed impossible began to appear naturally. People who resonated with his vision joined his path effortlessly. Doors opened without him knocking. He understood that alignment attracts support. Misalignment attracts struggle. It was a simple truth, yet most people live in the opposite way, pushing, forcing, chasing what is not theirs. He stopped resisting the unknown. The uncertainty that once terrified him became his teacher. He learned that discomfort is the language of growth. Every delay, every unexpected turn, every moment of silence was shaping him for what was next. Patience was not passive, was active trust. Trust in the dream that had been waiting for him all along. Comparison lost its power. Desire for recognition faded. He no longer needed to live in someone else's shadow or chase someone else's success. He began to focus solely on serving his purpose, doing what he was created to do, not what others expected. And when he committed to that fully, life responded with precision. Failures no longer defined him, they refined him. Setbacks were not punishment, they were preparation. Every step forward carried him closer to the alignment he had always sought. He realized finally that the dream was not a distant goal. It had been within him all along, waiting for him to stop resisting, waiting for him to step fully into his own power. And in that space, clarity emerged. Fear no longer dictated his moves. Doubt became a signal, not a stop sign. Life began to flow with momentum that felt unstoppable. Every day, he asked himself the same question: is this in alignment with my highest purpose? And every choice, every action, every word reflected the answer. The dream never left. The dream was patient, and the moment he aligned fully, the universe moved to meet him, carrying him into a reality that was always meant to be his. He finally understood that courage was not the absence of fear. Courage was moving forward despite it. The unknown still loomed, and challenges were still real, but he no longer let them dictate his path. Every step he took was guided by intention, not impulse. Every decision was filtered through the question: does this serve my purpose, my growth, my alignment? He stopped clinging to past identities and expectations. The version of him that used to seek validation, recognition, or control slowly faded. In its place, a stronger, quieter, intentional self emerged. This new version did not need applause. It did not seek approval. It simply acted with integrity and clarity. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach started aligning naturally. Support came from unexpected allies. Timing which had once felt frustratingly slow, now revealed its perfection. The dream that had been waiting for him all along was no longer distant. It began to manifest through his actions and alignment. He realized that resistance creates tension, but alignment creates momentum. The more he trusted the process, the less he needed to force outcomes. The more he acted intentionally, the more the universe responded, with doors opening, resources appearing, and guidance flowing in ways he could not have planned. Failures became lessons, setbacks became preparation, and silence became the space where clarity emerged. He learned that every challenge was shaping him to be ready for the next step. He no longer feared mistakes, because he knew that intention would carry him through. And in that moment, he understood the most profound truth. The dream was never lost. It was never hidden. It had been waiting for him patiently, for him to stop resisting, for him to embrace courage, for him to fully step into his own power. The dream moves with those who are aligned, intentional, and brave enough to walk forward, even when the path is unclear. And when he finally embraced that, life began to unfold effortlessly, powerfully, and inevitably.